What is up, my friends? This is the Protect Your Neck podcast, and I'm your host, Dan Tom, analyst whose work you could find over at MMA Junkie as well as linemovement.com. But on this here program, the Protect Your Neck podcast, we break down high-level MMA. That's what we're going to do here today, tonight. Whenever you're listening to this, hopefully it's before the fight, as I'm recording this Friday morning, right as the weigh-ins are going. Pretty much everybody's weighed in minus Mike Perry, which should be a surprise to no one, especially me, or especially you if you've listened to me since Wednesday or maybe Thursday when the actual Line Movement MMA betting show breakdown dropped. But, we record those on Wednesday. And even then, I said my prediction is that Mike Perry will miss weight. I'm going to stay tuned to see if that prediction, you'll get a live pass or fail from me on that, perhaps, as this podcast goes on. But yes, we're going to be breaking down UFC 255 from top to bottom as we usually do, recapping my picks at the very end. Check the timestamps when the breakdown starts, although really there's nothing to recap because we're going to get right into it. Just a couple notes, thank yous, and shouts off the top. But yes, as per usual, I do tend to timestamp in case you want to listen to me as little as possible. I don't blame you, believe me. And you can even always skip right to the end, as I always recap my picks and plays at the very end of the episode because, ADD times it can be tough to listen to any podcast, much less someone like myself who tends to jolt off in different directions and take random left turns down dark alleys. So we make it easy for you as possible to deal with me here on this program. So, without further ado, let's get into it. It was a good vacation. I use air quotes. Obviously, no one's doing really vacations, or should be. I was going to try to get back home to bury my grandfather, but it didn't really get to happen. The restrictions as well are tighter everywhere, especially in Hawaii. So yeah, we decided it best to hold off. Instead, I got a bunch done. Not as much as I would like to. In fact, some of you are listening to me like, hey, jerk, you're supposed to get back to me. If I was supposed to get back to you, I have not forgotten. I'm probably doing it after this here podcast. It just, boy, did I come back in a busy week. We had the Contender Series, Bellator, and UFC 255. I know I'm number one. Maybe not. That's being too generous in a negative way. But I know I tend to complain about oversaturation. But yeah, believe me, man, even though it's a crazy week, I'm super grateful. I've missed this because, as I tweeted, if you follow me on Twitter, at DanTomMMA, where you can find all my work throughout the week, so you don't have to wait for this late show that tends to drop at the end of the week. Apologies on that, but yeah, no, I'm genuinely excited to be back, man. Genuinely very happy to be back. I was busy as crap, busier than most people on What's a Break, but the fact that that busyness was not taken up, from the MMA stuff, I got a break from that, and absence makes the heart grow fonder. And all that good stuff, right? So I'm happy, man. I'm happy to be back and to talk to you guys. That being said, I am going to try to push this one along and not really celebrate it. Not that you guys really care for me to catch you up on the ins and outs, but I just will say quickly, thank you for those who enjoyed those top 5 shows. Thank you for the guests, of course, Ben Cohn from the Fight Site, and as well as Phil McKenzie there from the Heavy Hands podcast. We did top 5 unluckiest fighters, as well as thanks for the feedback. I know I dropped kind of a doozy as far as the old Tourette's podcast there, talking about my journey. Hopefully you were able to learn a little bit more about the host. Those of you able to listen to it and got back to me, thank you. I know it's not a listen for all, but at the same time, just trying to be transparent for myself, others, and whatnot. But that being said, this is an MMA show, so not that doesn't have, not that talk's not welcome here. I talk about a grand scale of things on this show. We try to stay on target, as I tend to say, right? But I just wanted to say thank you to all. And Ben Brown, host of Tourette's podcast as well. Everyone had me on their shows. I already thanked Fernando on a past episode. She's awesome. She had a sweet Van Damme article come out on Fanbyte you should check out. And since I just mentioned Fight Site, thanks to those guys for having me on a little impromptu discussion over the main event, which we're going to talk about here shortly. And lastly, but not leastly, James Lynch, the man, the busiest man in MMA, I dare say. He was covering my my butt, whether it was on the Aaron Bronstetter. Shout outs to Aaron in the pre-show. I'm excited to jump back on that with Aaron this week. Or, of course, at Line Movement, co-hosting aside Dan Levy in my stead. So appreciate you, James. And, of course, James always delivers excellent interviews. Go check out him at Lynch on Sports. All right, without further ado, let's get into the breakdown. UFC 255 kicks off with doesn't kick off. We're going to go from top to bottom. It's headlined by a title fight between Davis and Figueiredo, who is the champion and your favorite, deserved favorite, but man, that's a big number. Not that big, I guess, but minus 280, and Alex Perez plus 240. My voice is freaking gone. Yeah, I think as you shove coffee down the wrong throat hole. Jesus, damn, sorry. Phrasing, as the word is probably out by now, as I've annoyed my listeners by now with that slurping and coughing. Yeah, contrarian Dan Tom went contrarian here, and I went with Alex Perez, the underdog. Full disclosure, I haven't been able to play anything because, and I'm not gonna. It's salvageable. I've been having issues, but I'm not going to throw them under the bus. So I just won't mention the book, but I've been having issues with my book. So I'm going to have to dust up other accounts if you guys want to give me recommendations, because if this doesn't get resolved in time, I'm going to have to find some action, because I haven't been able to have any action since Glover the Lover cashed. And if you've been following my picks, at least from like staff picks perspective, you'll see that I've been still doing pretty well. And so I missed out on some opportunities, in other words. And in other words, if you're sensing saltiness, at least you can take solace and know that Dan Tom actually does bet what he says, because you can tell that I didn't bet it this week, and it's bothering me because there's some things that I think that are bettable. So even though I will continue to say don't follow me off the cliff, as I tend to be honest, but conservative in those regards, but yet always honest. That being said, there are some cliffs that if you do follow me off of, so to speak, I may have to be living vicariously through you guys. So bet a little bit for your boy, and your boy will in turn send good vibes your way, as I always do. I want you all to cash, even if you're going against me. I'll be happy knowing my listeners do well. Okay. And those of you who've been hitting me up in the DMs and stuff, again, you guys know you're welcome, and hopefully I can help you there too. All right, this one, I don't blame you for not following me off the cliff, but I do feel like it's fair to question the line. I love Davis and Figueiredo, just as much as everybody, and as I was getting passionate on the Line Movement MMA betting show, because God, I don't read the comment section on anything, but like. And again, you guys are passionate too, so I appreciate it. But I know there'll be people in the comment section coming in, the classic, you picked this guy, that must mean you hate this guy, or you underrate this guy, or you disrespect this guy, or all these words that are very broad brush and unfair to the specific poison. Because, like I stated in breakdowns, I was calling for Davis and Figueiredo versus Peter Yan for most casuals who are even aware of Figueiredo as a contender, much less a champion. So don't get that shit out of here. And I think I was joking. This one, I think, was off air, so you guys didn't catch this one on the Line Movement MMA betting show, where we have some good times over there. I was talking with Jordan, the producer, and Dan, and I was just saying, I'm like, watch, like for example, like if Aljo fought Yan, and I pick Aljo, right, to wrestle Yan, just because it's a bad stylistic matchup, perhaps on paper. Let's just say for this hypothetical, right? But like everyone's gonna be like, you don't even know who Peter Yan is, and you hate Peter. And it's just, motherfucker, I was watching Peter Yan in Russia like 5 years ago. Shut up. Like, it's this whole, just because you pick against somebody, it's the most ignorant shit. But I get it, because there's not enough of my team versus your team, especially in my country, right? Or the world. Jesus Christ, people. Like there's not enough of that shit. Anyways, it's my biggest pet peeve, so I'm not gonna go down that diatribe like I did on the Line Movement MMA betting show, but that's what that was all about. And believe me, I hope I'm wrong, folks. Like, if you're a Figueiredo backer, like, not only do I like him, fucking relax, but, like, dude, I hope I'm wrong. I hope y'all are right, and whatever angle you're cashing. Although I gotta say, you're paying for it, not just money line like minus 280, but it's disproportionate. And we'll talk about an inside the distance to money line um, at the very end here. But it's disproportionate because I'm seeing it like minus 160 for Figueiredo inside the distance. Now, granted, especially as of late and how this matchup may call for, Figueiredo will be as equal a submission threat as he is a knockout threat, at least in this fight, right? Um, and we'll talk about, stylistically, and we'll talk about the submission losses that Perez has, although that's not what I'm basing it on, though you could certainly, sure, throw it on the scale too for the argument, right? So I get it. It's hard to pick. Therefore, the inside the distance line should be heavy for that fighter who is also the favorite. But man, a minus 280 to minus 160 spread for a money line to inside, that is just kind of silly to me. 5 round fight, finisher or not. This a flyweight affair. And like I said in these breakdowns, MMA, to oversimplify on purposely here, folks, for a second. Humor me for a second as I purposely oversimplify, but MMA is a game of matchups and chaos. Figueiredo is certainly the man better suited to capitalize on the chaos against Perez. No arguments from me. He's the deserved favorite. No arguments from me. But MMA is a game of matchups, and Figueiredo belongs to kind of a weird love triangle, right? Similar to, and I referenced this on the fight side, I believe it was Trigg, Hughes, and Hallman. Shout out to my man Jordan Killian, who I'm going to have back on for a top 5. I believe he always referenced this one too, where it's like Hallman beat Hughes twice, Trigg beat Hallman twice, I believe, or something like that, and of course Hughes beat Trigg twice, right? And they kind of chase each other's tail as far as who could beat who, putting the proverbial MMA math right on its pooper, right? I don't know if that's a really good phrasing, Dan, but you get what I'm saying now. So when we do the, Figueiredo beating, Benavidez twice, Benavidez beating Formiga twice, and Formiga soundly beating Figueiredo, the champion, you get a kind of a similar situation where we're trying to figure out where Perez fits in this love triangle, right? Because he iced Formiga. Oh, well, maybe that means he'll ice Figueiredo. Well, that didn't work out too well for Joe B. Well, he fought Joe B. How did it go when he fought Joe B? Joe B TKO'd him, and we just saw Joe B just get smashed. And I think that's a lot of the line, right? Figueiredo's dominance. He is an athletic outlier. There's no denying that. Believe me, he is. But when you see someone just massacre somebody, it's like recency bias. We're like, oh my God, right? And if you want another example of this, because Dan Tom, you don't have to agree with me, folks, but I will bring facts, examples, citations, not just to the eloquent talk, folks. Bring some math to the table, some facts here. But let's look at the featherweight Grand Prix of Bellator. Like, dude, in one night, first of all, you got, just the other week, you got Emmanuel Sanchez getting his deserved due. Like, finally, people are seeing this guy's potential, that he can upset Pitbull the second time around. That people weren't crazy for thinking he could have done it the first time around, although I did pick Pitbull by decision, but I gave Emmanuel Sanchez his due credit that many weren't giving him. Not everybody, of course. And it's like, great. And then the next fight, Pitbull ices Carvalho, who is like Portuguese Conor, the poor man Portuguese Conor McGregor. Like, no offense to the guy, but like, that's kind of what Pitbull should have done to him. And everybody's like, oh, Pitbull's great. Like, Pitbull's always been great, folks. Like, what's going on here, right? But I'm not going to hate because Pitbull deserves more credit. So, hey, okay, it's not news to me or many of you, but, hey, let's let the positivity pour in, right? And then not a week later, AJ McKee, who even people picking him like myself are like, I don't know if this line should be this wide. Like, I don't blame anybody seeing value on Caldwell, although I didn't pick or play him. Not that I could have, anyways. See, you could tell I'm honest when I say I play things, folks, because I'm salty this week. But like, and I wouldn't have played him anyway, so I wouldn't have lost out there. But I got it. I'm not hating anybody who took that shot. And then you see McKee just, win in a way that not even people picking him to win by submission like myself we're calling for. You know what I'm saying? He's got like that catch wrestling off the cow catcher catch thing there, right? With the guard in play. It was cool. It was sweet. But everybody's already going submission of the year, and I'm just like, easy. Let's relax. And granted, I know I'm always that guy, even in the face of the Joaquin Buckleys of the world, where I'm like, how about let's let the rest of the year play out? Because although there's a good chance that no one's going to top or do anything like Joaquin Buckley is for the rest of the year, or maybe the next 2 or 3, the fact is there were crazy KOs just weeks before that. The fact is the year's not over, which is a fact. So people getting so upset going, if you're not fucking bowing down and sucking Joaquin Buckley's dick and giving him the award right now, you're fucking wrong. We saw how many of those campaigns, obviously not in those words, but you get what that was like the spirit, like okay, or we could just point to mathematical facts if we want to argue about it and just point to the fact that the year's not over, or the fact that, speaking of the magic word year, how about 2020, folks? I rest my fucking case. So the point is, we get way too excited about shit. Recency bias is absolutely real. We can argue to each case and to each degree. That's fine. But it is absolutely real. And I warn people. I warn people is that I feel like that could be happening. Figueiredo doesn't exactly have the longest sample size, and his sample size isn't exactly the most consistent. Yes, he may have reportedly had injuries going into that Figueiredo fight, but it just gets murky because, again, you've got the headbutts that Benavidez himself admits to that I forgot to highlight in my breakdown, though I've been talking about before most, and not enough people talk about that. So you've got all these weird question marks. So ultimately, let's just look at the styles. And again, just because something has value doesn't mean you should bet it. Hence Caldwell, why I didn't pick her play, right? That being said, I could be very guilty on that here in Perez. That being said, there's another metric, which is a very dangerous one to go to. It could be another trapping, but I digress. It's another metric to add on to it, which is, I've done this before, where you go, when we start getting too excited and we feel like we might be getting overcorrecting steering wheel, hyping, recency bias, whatever, all the above, right? A healthy question to often ask is, when a guy looks so unbeatable, you go, wait a minute. Everyone's beatable in this game, right? Everyone is. Even the guys who are unbeatable and may stay that way because they're going to stay away, like Khabib. There's times in his career where he probably was beatable. Or, matchups are waiting for him, or if he stays long enough where he will be beatable, because that is the nature of the game. It's not a knock on Khabib, folks. Relax. Because I get a lot of those same vibes, like when I'm picking against Figueiredo. Like, I love the guy too, man. He's a great character. It's good for the division. It's good if he wins. Believe me. Part of me hopes I'm wrong here, but you got to ask yourself the healthy question: is if everybody's beatable, then who's the person to beat them stylistically? If this is a game of matchups and everyone's beatable, and for Figueiredo, I think it's shown that it's a wrestler. Formiga wasn't a wrestler that beat him, but Jared Brooks, who, even though I'm not mad at that decision, though you could argue that he won, especially under older Georgian scoring criterias and trends, right? Whether you agree with it or not is what it is, folks. The fact is that although initiative is what, in theory, gets you in trouble against a dangerous counter fighter, and initiative is what has scored guys' most devastating moments and Figueiredo's best moments, right? Because he is Figueiredo, a devastating, powerful counter puncher, right? That being said, on the inverse, the fighters that have done best against him were fighters that were taking the initiative, but they were offensive-minded grapplers. Whether they had deep skill sets like judo and jiu-jitsu black belts like Formiga and veteran savvy, or really not deep skill sets or experience like Jared Brooks, who was undersized, experience, didn't have deep tools, but he had initiative and offensive grappling, reactive shots, and that is something that Perez has. Perez can do it all from the clincher in the open. I do think his best chances will be in the open. Ed Gallo, shout out to him, had some very interesting notes about Perez, which I agree. He does seem to favor that snatch single. And it's one of those things where it's hard to rely on. There's a lot of intangibles, like how good are you? How good is your timing? How good is your division? Which is maybe why You see it more at heavyweight, to Ed's point, the Stipes or the Cormiers of the world, even at that, but at heavyweight, right? However, I have seen Perez on more than a couple of occasions not only use level changing doubles or reactive doubles, but chaining off to knee taps. And with Davison having, when he isn't falling into his back and going for selling out for guillotines, him having decent, I should say strong first layer defense in the clinch and sprawls. I feel like those opportunities, especially a sprawling motion in the open to defend, will just open up either the knee tap chain or the knee tap chaining into like a shrug off to the back. And then you're in riding territory. And Figueiredo, I think, Perez will be a better rider than guys like Jared Brooks, so he won't be giving up position as much. And even though Figueiredo shows freakish athleticism and suspect performances, like muscling up against Formiga, in his defense, Formiga's used to letting guys get up because he's so keen on getting back takes in transition. Formiga didn't earn the title from me and many, especially back in the day. If you listen to people like talking 4 or 5 years ago, like us, saying he's the best back taker in MMA at flyweight, you'd see him do him off of like slips, and whatnot. But the thing was, it's like you saw this thing where it's like not only did he stop closing the show less, Formiga, from back takes, then he's like in UFC because it's against higher competition, and win or lose, he's getting these sweet back takes and beautiful transitions that are just like, go watch from Formiga early UFC, early to mid UFC run, and you're just seeing some really amazing athletic back takes, right? But in the mid to late, you start seeing him not close the show from the back takes, but he's holding position for less. And in fact, you go to the fights like the Morenos or even in the Figueiredo's fights, when he's often setting up, when he's allowing guys space to breathe to set up his back takes, right? Those moments are actually now, instead of him setting up traps, they're actually working the way they're kind of supposed to be designed for, where guys are using his transitional purposeful space and exploding off of it, timing him right. So we're seeing Formiga lose a lot of those positions. So I think that falls more in line with the trend of Formiga and the way MMA is moving and the general skill of flyweight. All three of those things outweigh maybe Figueiredo is just this lights out counter grappler. Like, he showed some really good things that I'm really trying to give him credit for, like in the first Benavidez fight, not just the takedown defense, but that armbar catch, because it was a transitionary thing that it's flyweight. You should be doing things like that. But Figueiredo, even in his like wild man regional days, was more of a positional based. He's always been more of a positional based player. He seems to really enjoy making fighters feel his weight and strength. So I don't know if he's going to have that against one of the bigger flyweights, one of the biggest flyweights, and arguably the best wrestler in the division. And I feel much better when guys like analysts like Ed Gallo kind of sign off on that. And I write about his history on my in-depth breakdowns, which you can find, of course, on MMA Junkie. I've had a bunch of stuff coming out all week. Connor Dustin rehash of Contender Series at the Bellator main event, and both these main events written up in depth with some stats. And yeah, sorry, I lost train of thought there. But speaking of stats, although I'm talking about wrestling here as I see that being a key, I think it's going to be unfortunate for Figueiredo fans who are wanting for action. I think Perez is going to wrestle him for an upset on the scorecards, but the calf kick still will be something to look for. It's deceptive because Figueiredo, again, a counter fighter, he's going to counter off of him, but he doesn't always counter off him. He doesn't take every opportunity that's there. And although he has shown some semblance of checking in recent fights, which is a good trend to keep an eye out for from Figueiredo, ultimately, fighters who have committed to their leg kicks have landed at a high clip statistically. Again, I know stats aren't everything. I'm not a big stats guy, but it is worth noting, especially against now arguably the best leg kicker, and not just a leg kicker, but a calf kicker. It only takes a couple of those to compromise the fight. By the way, I know a lot of you guys who crunch the tape do it without commentary, which is kind of smart to get certain looks. I've been like playing like music over as I'm doing it, and it just my own weird nerdy head like things edit together funny. And I was listening to The Lone Shepherd off the Kill Bill soundtrack while watching Formiga and Alex Perez, and it sunk up beautifully like a movie. And I'm gonna, as I talk about this, I was listening to that song Donovan. Uh, it's a song that's playing when Billy Bats is getting stomped on in Goodfellas. And I just had this like image where like now I'm gonna do it and post it to Twitter probably later today. I'm gonna edit the Donovan song over the Strike Force Brawl. I think it would just go perfect. Billy Bats. Oh, man, Miller. Sorry. Long-winded there. I'm just going to go with Perez. Good luck to you, Figueiredo. I wouldn't be surprised if Perez gets fucking iced by right hands or uppercuts. He's gotten better. He's not... We talk more about the striking on the Fight Side podcast. I don't want to draw on here. And I want to give them a plug as well. But basically, Perez feints are going to be the key. He has trended to feinting more. He is attaching check hooks and getting better at throwing away his right hand and more confidence in his left hook. All things that are going to serve him very well, but make no mistake about it, folks. He is playing with fire for as long as Figueiredo is standing. But if Figueiredo doesn't find that finish within the first half of the fight, I feel like it's got Perez decision written all over it. Plus 1,000 if you want to sprinkle on that bad boy. But really, it's money line or bust either way if you ask me for either fighter. I got Perez. Next fight, we'll try to speed the rest of this breakdown up, folks. Valentina Shevchenko minus 1,300. Jennifer Maia plus 850. Taking Shevchenko here, obviously, by decision, despite it being in the small cage. Patterns seem to be even more predictable in MMA, and we'll talk about that from Maia's perspective in a second. But I'm going to go with the degenerate pattern over the technical pattern. The technical pattern is that Maia does the same. Like there's you guys know the L step in boxing? Well, Maia does like an L shuffle. Like I'm just trying to like politely like write about it, but I don't think I've ever written like somebody like I wrote like that she taxis about into resets. Like, I don't know how much of a polite of a way it is to say that is to say something, but yeah, she does essentially the same resets, and she resets to her right and moves to her right and dips to her right, and these in completely different ways, by the way, but thematically from direction to just the theme of repetitive rote patterns, it very much reminds me of Holly Holm, and so in that sense, I could see Shevchenko picking up on things and smashing her with a head kick. Because she just dips into that side and runs into that side, or a counter cross. But I also feel like Jennifer Maia's, again, is someone with a big head here. Looks like she could take a shot, right? And I know, she got knocked out by Sheila Gaff. Like, that was early in her career. I think a more relevant reference would be the Polish girl she fought in Invicta who had her on, like, ice skates. But if you go look at that fight in Invicta, that was a title fight, right? Maia was defending. And I think it's like the first or second round she gets rocked and could be down like 1 or 2 rounds. And like she's putting that kind of like Volkanovski Holloway 2 position. Not as good of a fight, obviously, but in the sense of the head kick, the rocking, the being down 2 rounds, and you're forced to defend your title with a gun to your head with 3 rounds to go. You got to win every round. And she did that to her credit, and was able to compose herself. Now, I don't think she can win the title off of Shevchenko, but I think she can dance around and kill time even in the small octagon for the decision, because the degenerate trend is that Shevchenko, since being a flyweight, has finished decision, finish, decision, finish, decision, finish, right? It kind of goes like that. Does she break off from the path like Randa Marcos did and go south? I don't think so. Good luck to you if you're playing that. I feel like a middle ground here, folks, would be the over at minus 150. For over 2.5 on a female Shevchenko 5-round affair. Boyo. I feel like even if it doesn't hit, I still, and it sounds like the most salty, there's no value in a losing line. I get it, and I'm definitely not trying to be that guy, and I rarely even cite this, but just to that point, Like, I just feel like that line is off in the sense that even if it doesn't hit, I'm not going to regret my shot. Put it that way. That's fair, right? That's fair. So I feel like that's the middle ground to look for there, folks. Good luck. Mike Perry minus 145. Tim Means plus 125. Let's see, because my prediction, like I said, was that Mike Perry was going to miss weight. Let's see if he did. It's almost end of the weigh-in time here as I'm recording this. Lipsky just made it at 126. Perry forfeits 30%. Oh, shit. Looks like Dan Tom was correct. I was calling it. Oh, snap. Oh, I got to tweet that. Whoa, Jesus. Called this since Wednesday. At line movement. Sorry. Perry misses weight. That bet is in, so expect this line to flip. I bet you if I refresh, it's already going. Yep. Means plus 117 now. Perry minus 127. My betting article dropped before I started recording this, so I made it do there with sites of my Wednesday call as well as others there. So yeah. Yep. Hopefully you're able to get in on that. By the time I get my account fixed, I'm probably gonna miss it. So, c'est la vie, Perry. Play for me. And again, if y'all, to those of you who already are generous, stop fucking tipping me, by the way. But if anybody else wants to feel nice, who wants to support this show, that's free. It continues to be free. If I've helped you cash some bets, you can always either support it for free by just giving it a nice share, 5-star rating review on Apple Podcasts. Give it the like and subscribe. Help my subscriber count on YouTube, Daniel Tom MMA. Try not to bitch about that, but I feel like it's fair that I could ask for a little more. So these are ways to help. But if you want to feel so inclined, yes, you can always go to mixedmartialanalyst.com, who hosts this here podcast. Click through the Amazon, and on it links through your shopping or the PayPal banner for a direct donation. See, I put the thing right in the middle, like how the annoying advertisements go, which I may start to have those too. We'll see, folks. But come on, I barely advertise. It's forgive me, right? That'll be it for that. But yeah, I got Tim Means here. You're a little worried about knockout or bust, but knockout or bust alone is a way to at dog money is enough value just on broad brush standards. Then factor in the fact that I've always been betting Means at like minus 220s for years now, getting him at plus money against Mike freaking Perry, who has looked like awful. Remember I talked about his bad looking suspect before the golf fight? He comes in, looks super suspect. And again, the reason why I'm a little bit of bragging, I have to take my victory lap, because you podcast listeners know, look at the fight before Jennifer Maia. I believe I was a bit reluctant on one, but I know I called one for sure. I called, technically though, the last two of her weight misses, at least told y'all to watch out for it. Do not be surprised if she misses. Said it here on this show. I got an eye for this. Shout out to my man Aaron Bronstetter, who used to be a Guess That Weight guy. Maybe that's why we get along. We both have that gene. But I said Perry's looking thick, and then he was eating burritos and burgers on Fight Week on his Instagram, folks. Like, Jesus. So it's crazy. It's crazy. So anyways, I got Means here. Good luck if you're playing them. Cynthia Calvillo minus 265. Katlyn Chookagian plus 225. This is another one where you could say the line is a little too wide. And I feel like I'm saying that not just to be conservative, but also to maybe correct, perhaps overcorrect the steering wheel, because my hand is raised, folks. Admitting bias for Cynthia Calvillo, working with people I know over at Extreme Couture for this camp. So I'm going to be picking her. I'll probably end up playing her, but like it's going to be honestly super reserved, because like I feel like I shouldn't be paying this much. I like the improvements. I think she's going to win on the feet. I like what she did from eye, because particularly like you look at the stool language Cynthia Calvillo sat down. You could argue that maybe she lost the first round. It looks like she lost the first round in her mind, right? Even though a lot of people scored it for her. And she looked almost dejected, and I'm like, oh crap, that's like somebody like you. That's a face you want to live bet against. Like she looks so dejected, right? But Calvillo, man, this Mexican warrior, she pulls it together and fights her ass off and out volumes I. And I's got some size and some wrestling, better wrestling than Chookagian. So I think Calvillo can score takedowns if she needs to, even though she doesn't go for him as much as I would like. However, when she does go for him, she does tend to do him off of caught kicks, which is why I picked her in a fight that was more closely lined, and for good reason, against Marina Rodriguez, right? And, whether you agree with the draw or not, her takedown games off of the kicks that I just cited are certainly what saved her ass, right? I think we can all agree on that. So I'm going to pick Calvillo here. Chookagian has been showing to sit down on her shots more, but Calvillo's got a chin, and again, she's not easily discouraged. So I think that Calvillo bringing the fight and doing things that would be good, like sitting down, bringing the fight more, will actually play into Calvillo's hands. So as I talk about it, maybe I'm convincing myself more into the Calvillo pick. I get why anything north of this line is putting up flags for this people. Let's just say that. Pick is Calvillo. Proceed with caution. I'm not telling you what to do, though. Paul Craig, minus 170, will probably be decapitating some guy named Morris Rua. It's not Shogun, folks. It's Morris Rua. I refuse to believe that Shogun is going to take another L here. But I'm going to go with damage. I don't think that Paul Craig earned a 10-8 in that first fight. But the reason why he was able to BS the judges in that sense, no hate on Paul Craig there, for he did his job. But the reason why we saw that score, I guess I should say, is damage, right? Or the illusion of damage. And Paul Craig will do that. Maybe a TKO prop is worth a fun sprinkle if you're looking for plus money. You don't feel right putting chalk on a guy like Craig, especially against a guy like Morris. But the pick is Craig. I didn't play. I stayed away, and will probably, again, ultimately stay away since my bookie won't let me play. Or the book that I use, I should say. Salty. Jesus, Dan, get over it. Next fight, Brandon Moreno versus minus 190, Brandon Royval plus 165. You guys know Royval was one of my favorite cashes next to Glover and some others this pandemic season over Kai Kara France, but that was also because that was just a really overinflated line. No offense to Kai Kara France, City Kickboxing, love them both, but Kai Kara France, again, has been very overinflated from the betting lines perspective. And against a guy who is not a bad matchup and still going to give me the bad line, that was just silly. This, however, even though plus 165 is still a nice line for a guy like Brandon Royval, who is live, I'm still going to pick Brandon Moreno based on decision theory. Royval 1-4 in decisions, whereas Moreno has shown that he can win decisions a lot more consistently. So, in other words, if Royval doesn't get the finish, I suspect Moreno will win by decision. Moreno could also finish him as well, a la Dustin Ortiz. He'll pull out those surprising finishes. Royval's shown he could be reckless and get rocked. But I'm going to pick Moreno. I wouldn't be betting this fight, though, and I wouldn't be betting against Factory X's fighters from 135 down right now. They're fucking hot. But Moreno is an overachiever and the assassin, baby. Moreno looks like he could be on the team, if you know what I'm saying. Dan, don't go there. Stay on target. Keep it clean. I'm just saying, folks. As a fellow person that could be on that team, I think. We'll just say I'll say Team Husama Paharas to cite the. To cite the Thick Fighters podcast. Oh no, Jesus, Dan. All right, let's steer away. I love both those guys. Let's leave it at that. Joaquin Buckley minus 250, Jordan Wright plus 210. This feels like a trap. Again, overcorrecting the steering wheel, right? And Jordan Wright is an easy guy to write off, but the dude has some opportunistic skills, right? So who knows? I'm gonna pick Buckley here to roll, but Jordan Wright, who's not undefeated, by the way. Don't let these weird nose contests that keep popping up fool you. We'll talk about more later, but yeah. I'll take Joaquin Buckley. Antonina Shevchenko minus 160, Ariane Lipsky plus 140. This is on my avoid list because I didn't tape it, and both fighters lose when they're supposed to win. I'll take Antonina, but I am not confident in it. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a slot fest either way. Though Lipsky pulling out a sub or something like random would not surprise me either. Like, it's just what it is. Kyle Dawkins minus 320 over Dustin Stolfus. I think I called for this fight in my contender series. Dawkins should be favored. Should he be favored that much? I'm not sure because I didn't do tape on this fight. I just remember Stolfus is a dude. I'm pulling up my grading the winners. He really liked Germany. I just remember him coming out doing some questionable hand signals, and the dude is really into Germany. Not hating, man. Germany was really nice to me. German people are nice. My Faja, despite being full Chinese, speaks fluent German. Don't even ask why. No hate there, but, dudes seem normally... Yeah, that's right. I said book him in the form of either Joaquin Buckley, who's on this card, or Kyle Dawkins. That's right, baby. I'll take some cred there. Why not? UFC matchmakers need a break for their brain. Obviously, it's not too hard to pick a lot of these folks. I'm joking because there's really not many open choices, and there's not a lot of thought that seems to go into this matchmaking, so I will not thump my chest too hard there. I will pick Kyle Dawkins. I'll probably play him because I like him, which is terrible to say. So obviously don't take my analysis too hard to the bank. Next fight's a tricky one too. Alan Jouban minus 145. Jared Gooden plus 125. I didn't do any more tape since I talked to Dan Levy on the Line Movement MMA betting show. Obviously, Jared Gooden is one of his guys, and Dan rightfully so admitted his bias. And, because he's one of his guys, I'm going to want Jared to do well too. However, I am a fan of Jouban, and as an analyst, I'm going to have to pick him here. But I will say Gooden is a live dog, especially, there's a lot of flags between Jouban moving into commentary, which, man, he's killing it. He not only looks great, dresses great, knows how to play the camera. He's got that the advertising commercial experience, so I bet he's got some acting chops there. Jouban's the man, but he might be maybe moving on to that career. You got to watch out for that, kind of like with the Chukagian already talking about retirement, starting a family. And then you look at the age gap of 12 years, and it's just crazy. Otherwise, they're both pretty similar as far as, minus the Muay Thai, as far as regional MMA titles, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belts, so on and so forth. But I'll go with my Tough Enough alum. It's not often I get to say I fought in the same organization as a UFC fighter anymore because like the Ronda Rouseys and all the other Tough Enough alum are no longer fighting. But Alan Jouban's one of them, baby. I think his last Tough Enough fight was like a few cards before mine, while they were still using the ring. That's how long ago Jouban was fighting for them, because my fight in April 2011 was like their second card where they switched over to the cage, and we were all stoked. Well, UFC, bro. Fighting cage, man. Stupid kid. Stupid Dan Tom. So, biased both ways here, so don't listen to me. But I will say Gooden is live. Definitely a dogger pass situation. For me, at least. There's too many flags for me to support the guy I'm picking. Sounds silly, but that's how compromised I am. So don't listen to me, folks. Luis Koske, minus 45. I can't remember if it's the Luis that I liked. I liked them both, but I really liked one that had a chip on his shoulder because Dana White kind of gave him shit and he shouldn't have. And the kid was just like, yeah? No? I didn't let off the gas. I don't let nobody off the gas. I'll show you next time. I was like, oh, that motherfucker's got a chip of all chips, and Dana just awoken that beast. So if that's that brother, I'm really excited to see him. I'll pick him as the absurd favorite over Sasha Planktonoff. I don't know. Didn't do any tape study there, obviously. I did on this one, though. Not that I really needed to, because my opinion was the same. Daniel Rodriguez, now minus 330. Nicholas Dalby, plus 270. Daniel Rodriguez, I know it's hard to bump chest on a minus 300, but this is the chalk that's the safest, in my opinion, of the whole card. Minus Shevchenko, obviously, but that's some high-class chalk you're talking about there. Nicholas Dalby is the southpaw fault line. He and Alex Oliveira. Neither of them are southpaws and they face each other, but if you look at Alex Oliveira, he pretty much sends every southpaw he faces into orbit unless they're switch stance, super skilled Rachmanov, which I called, by the way, but or if it, or on the opposite hand, you got Dalby, who loses to everyone who's a southpaw. In fact, all his losses in no contests or losses recently unfairly turned to a no contest, like with Jesse Ronson's case, they're all southpaws. Zach Cummings, Peter Sabota, Darren Fochentil, Jesse Ronson, Carlo Pedersoli, right? They're all southpaws. And Rodriguez is a deceptively slick and heavy-hitting southpaw who can hold his own in scrambles and submissions. So I don't think those will be an issue as far as level-changing scores, much less any control time. Meaningful control time will be scored by Dalby. And Dalby's is also getting up there in age and miles. I hope his rap on social media, which I'm a fan of Dalby, and that's cute and all. And I like Dalby's story, but I hope he's not really meaning that he starves himself for a day and a half before the weigh-ins. He's still going old school. I know he's an older guy, but man, I hope he's not doing that, because that would explain that, that I'm not going to help his durability. I know Daniel Rodriguez, got flash KO'd 3 months ago, almost to the day by the time he fights, right? And that's kind of troublesome, but he recovered really well. And again, man, kind of like the Dirty Bird, who I know he iced, which goes a long way with me too. These guys in prison, man. These guys who've been fighting in prison and they fought to get in prison and they fought in and out of prison. Yeah, I trust they'll make do in a pandemic. Let's just say. So, Daniel Rodriguez has done some hard times, so that's why he's a little older, but he's younger in miles. That's why he's hitting his stride both in life and in fighting a bit late. So I got Daniel Rodriguez all day, and in reference to my problem with the Figueiredo inside the distance, in reference to his money line, which keeps getting tighter now. Maybe I'm not crazy for liking Perez. I feel like I'd be alone on an island, but shouts to my man Danny Martin there over on the fight site. Not many of us picking Perez. I've seen at least, but then again, I purposely don't look at other people's breakdowns for the most part, especially these days, or my feed, especially these days. But yeah, you look at Daniel Rodriguez, who's like a bigger favorite than Figueiredo has been all week. And his inside the distance line comes back at like plus 120. So I feel like that's value all day, son. So I would hit that. I'm going to hit that if I can get onto another book that offers it in time. If not, hit it for me. But if you lose, don't come looking for me. Daniel Rodriguez, a definite parlay piece. All right, how do we do on time? I know I went long on the main. 48 minutes, not too bad. I'm still in expedited territory, aren't I? Anyways, thanks, folks. Again, going to recap here on the way out. Taking Alex Perez over Davison Figueiredo, taking Valentina Shevchenko over Jennifer Maia, taking Tim Means over Mike Perry, taking Cynthia Calvillo over Caitlin Chukagian, taking Paul Craig over whoever Morris Rua is, taking Brandon Moreno over Brandon Royval, taking Joaquin Buckley over Jordan Wright, taking Antonina Shevchenko over Ariana Lipsky, albeit hesitantly, taking Kyle Dawkins over Dustin Stolfus. All right. Derek Vineyard. Dan, no. Taking Alan Joban over Jared Gooden, taking Louis Koski over Sasha Planktonoff, taking Daniel Rodriguez over Nicholas Dalby. Gonna parlay Rodriguez with somebody if I can get on a book sometime. Gonna play Means if he's still dog money, maybe even straight if I get in a book sometime and he's low enough. Gonna play Perez at whatever he's at. Wish I could have played him at plus 250. Props, Shevchenko, Maya over 2.5 minus 150. That's got value for me. Be playing that if I can. We'll also be playing D-Ride inside the distance at plus 120. You know I will. Avoid Moreno Royval. Just sit back and crack one and enjoy that. Lipsky Shevchenko. I won't tell you what to avoid otherwise, but if you do want to, again, quick plug. Sorry, I gotta do it. Support this show. Please, just any kind of share, shout. I'll try to share and tweet you or reshare you if you tag the podcast on social platforms. Easy to remember, at the PYN Podcast on all social platforms. I don't pollute your feed, and it really does help a lot for the follows, as well as at DanTomMMA on Twitter, where you can find me most. And yes, mixedmartialanalyst.com, the host of this here free program that's been free for many years and counting, and will continue to be free for you and your reference. And if it has helped you, feel free to support by not just sharing, but subscribing to the YouTube channel, Daniel Tom MMA, giving this audio version of the video a like if you're listening to us there, as well as on Apple Podcasts, 5-star ratings and reviews, or the click-throughs on the said mixedmartialanalyst.com toggle to the right for On It. Love the hemp protein. Just bought a new kettlebell, was sweet. Click through at no cost to you. A small percentage of your sale goes back to the show, and the same goes for Amazon. God, I hate to admit that I use it, but we do, don't we? So please, any help there is appreciated. And let me know if you do, so I can double check that it is getting tracked. You are getting credit for it, and I will give credit to you, especially if you hit that PayPal donation link. Those who have done so have had wide open access to me even while I was on break to help them cash the bets that I could not even cash. So not that I'm doing a Patreon or moving in that direction, but let's just say there's an unwritten rule there, and let's just forget it. Why not just some good karma? Even a couple bucks, anything helps, and I can assure you goes directly to this podcast and helping it grow. Thank you very much. I hate doing that salesmanship bullshit. Thanks for sticking through. Good luck on your picks and plays this weekend. We're back in business, baby, and until next time, protect your neck.